everybody to this session about self-management in remote environments. My name is Jorge Tutor, and I will be the speaker of this session. So I'm an agility, innovation, and leadership big fan. I started as a developer, I think in Drupal community, but a few years ago, I decided to change my focus to management and to improve on how people manage themselves and help others to work in different kind of environments. Also help it with products and with clients, but always focus from the skills perspective. So this talk, it's about my experience. I work at MetaDrop, it's a Drupal specialized company based in Spain. And we were an hybrid remote company since the beginning. This company was founded 10 years ago. But because of the pandemic, we decided this year to move completely to full remote. So here I want to share my thoughts, my experience, and it will be focused on you. It means that there's another session talking about teams, how they manage themselves. But here we will provide you tools to let you know how you can improve your own skills to manage yourself, which is quite difficult at first. You will see in this presentation that basically everything I'm going to talk about, you already know it. But when you just try to follow is where you will find that difficulty. So there, it's maybe you should then go to this presentation, follow different steps, and then helps you to improve yourself. So why so remote in remote environments? Okay, basically, flexible working is becoming the new normal. You all know that it has been accelerated because of the pandemic, and it also provides all kind of benefits. For example, you don't need to hire someone which is in the same city as you. You could hire anyone, the best one in the world. Also, it's good for business because you will have greater flexibility. Remote workers are more productive, and this point, it's quite difficult at first because people that are used to work from physical offices, when they go through the process to becoming remote, it's quite hard at first. You will probably, if you were working in a company that were not experienced on remote, and because of the pandemic, they needed to change to remote, you will probably notice that the first 2 months was quite difficult to manage everything, but after that, everything seems to behave normally. Okay, and you will see in the report, but it seems that by 2028, 80% of all teams will work remotely. But what's the problem? That remote does not work out of the box. So we need to find what are the basic steps that we need to follow to help us to deal with remote. So there are a few tips I recommend you to follow. There is a GitLab course that it's free and you can follow it, and it's quite helpful. Because as you all know, GitLab is like 1,500 people working remotely. They have very long experience, and I have took some tips from them. But basically, they differentiate between leaders and employees. Basically, leaders, if you want to implement a remote environment, a remote company, from the leader's perspective, you should first establish a remote leadership team. You should go with experts that will you guide through the process and also to document everything, because this is the second step. Establish a handbook. This should be a single source of truth. Basically, all the process, all the important things should be written in an accessible place. And you should also try to minimize tool stack and know that transition is a process. From employees' perspective, you also should invest on your workspace. You should try to have your own space inside your home and try to separate from personal life. You will see it later how you can shut down and create barriers between personal and professional life. The third point is quite important, and it's very in physical office is quite easy to keep in touch with other teammates, but from distance, from remote, it's quite difficult. This is why your company you should provide meetings that are open spaces to share other thoughts that are not related to work itself. And of course, keep in mind that transition is a process. Okay, so this session is about you. It's not about teams. It's not about sprints. It's not about agile. It's about what can you do to improve yourself, to do more valuable work, and also to live with this remote approach, which is quite difficult at first. Okay, so the first point is that you should know your enemies. Let's go. Record your distractions. You will face probably that typical or common sentence that you should delete all your apps, you should delete all notifications. Okay, it completely depends on you. So the first thing you should do is to track what are your distractions, because it could be completely different from one person to another. So, and also you should track what, when, and where they are. For example, never-ending email loops, newsletters that you are subscribed, project comments that are you're getting feedback each 5 minutes, teammates asking you for help, multiple meetings across your weekly agenda, social media notifications. So basically, every time you get a distraction or a notification or anything, just note it, and then we will see what we are going to do with them. It's the second part. You should limit your distractions. So based on the ones you have received, you should decide if you want to eliminate them. I mean, to eliminate waste, remove all those apps that you are not using, silent them. If, probably those notifications, you don't need to know about them on real time. So you can just go up, open the application once per day, twice per day, but not every time someone writes you something on your Instagram account or even in your project management tool. You don't need to have that notification in real time that is disturbing you. Also, you should try to schedule what you are doing. For example, try to visit your email just 2 or 3 times per day. It would be great to do it maybe, for example, you start your journey at 8 o'clock, you should take a look at 10 maybe before lunch, and then at the end of your workday. But you should deal with your email inbox as if it were a physical one, and you are not going there every 5 minutes. It makes no sense. Also, you should try to set support hours for your team. So that way they will know that you will be there for them, but not at any time. And also you should plan breaks. Of course, with remote, you are able to transform a little bit your current behavior. For example, you should reduce meetings, as it will be easier to connect to one meeting room and also to disconnect. You could decrease a little bit and make it less longer than before. Also, I will show you an example of a synchronous meeting later, but the key point here is about isolation. You should have, even if you are in your home and maybe you are sharing your space with someone, you should be able to let others know that you are concentrated right now. So it could be just you have the opportunity to close your door, close it. If you don't have you're in an open space, maybe you could wear your headphones or even use an object that when that object is on the table, then everyone will know that they cannot disturb you. But of course, if the door is open or you are not wearing your headphones or that object is not on the table, then they are able to distract you, and it's okay if they do that. Basically, people will respect your time if they know when they can reach you. Key concept, willpower, it's a limited resource. So basically, every time you are doing something, you are using your willpower, and there's a limit for your day. So every time you are doing deep work or from eating, it means that a quite hard task that you don't want to do it, your willpower will decrease. So a good technique is self-nudging. So maybe mainly is to try to move it out from your side. Those kind of things that will need to keep your attention. For example, with a cake or application, notification. For example, last week I decided to remove all my shortcuts that I had on my Chrome browser to the website, maybe WhatsApp website, to Instagram, to Facebook, to all social media. And it seems quite simple, but as now I need to write down the full URL to those platforms, it takes, for me, it's easier to keep me on track and I do not visit those sites. Okay, context switching. There is a study made by Microsoft where they identified that 40% of our context switching came from ourselves. So every time we are blaming others that we are being distracted, that someone trying to reach you, a new email, something urgent, but there are a lot of things that we can control and come from our side, and you see the proportions are quite high. So why that happened? Because focusing is quite hard. Maybe we have a lack of motivation or our energy is low. In that case, maybe it's better to take rest and try again in a few minutes. How can we deal with that? So you can reduce or group, for example, your phone calls or other tasks, even when you are trying to manage your inbox. Avoid leaving unfinished tasks. It's easier, it's better to still be a few minutes more, confirm that you have finished that task, and then relax and go for the next task. And while you are working, it's quite normal that you get new ideas. Those ideas will rise. And it's quite common then when you realize that you need to do something, then you change your focus and go and start doing that. You should try to stop doing it. Just take note on paper or an agenda, and then after you have finished what you are doing right now, switch and finalize what you have just realized. Stop multitasking. I think that everyone is aware of multitasking. It's not a good idea, that we only could do one thing at a time, and there's a waste of time for all the interruption and this concentration, and the time that we need to invest to go back to that task. But what people is not telling you is that if you are doing multitask, you will not be able to filter out irrelevancy. It means that everything that happens around you, you will react to it. So step by step, you are losing that capacity to decide, okay, that's not important, I will focus on that and I will deal with that later. Plan. You should align with your goals. You should first decide what you're going to do with your time, because time cannot be managed. It's a resource that you can only take advantage of it. And the important thing is that you always decide what to do with your time. People could say, yes, but it's not my goal. It's my boss who decides what I do. It's not true, because, for example, if your child gets ill and you need to take him to the hospital, you will do it. So in the end, you control what you do right now. Second thing, it's quite important, is instead of arranging an agenda and then try to insert between those gaps the most important task, do it differently. Do the opposite. First, write down all the important tasks that you need to be accomplished along the week, and then accept those meetings that are on the opposite side will be harder to manage. Prioritize your task. You should see which tasks are urgent, which are not, if are important, if not, and then you can do, plan, delegate, or eliminate those tasks. So every time you get a new input, just decide which part that belongs, and decide if something urgent, you need to do it right now, or if not, you can plan it for next days or maybe for the afternoon. And if this is not something urgent, it's not important, you can delegate it to someone else. Of course, a good idea is eat that frog. It means that you should start with the most important and urgent ones every day. And of course, at the end of the day, there will be a lot of, maybe not a lot, but there will be a few tasks that are left. It doesn't matter. You just assign them to do it next day, and just that. So that way you will forget about it. Okay, so there are a few tools that will help you to deal with different stuff. This method, it's from David Allen, Getting Things Done. I think that most of us, most of you have already heard about it. And basically, it differentiates between things that you can do right now and things that can wait later. So basically, every time you're reviewing your inbox, it could be your notification, it could be your project management tool, just decide if you can do something with that or not. If not, maybe you should delete it because you're not going to use it anymore, or you want to keep it for the future. So just add a tab so you will be able to recover it later if needed. If you can do something about it, this is the key of this process, that if it takes less than 2 minutes to do it, just do it right now. If not, then you can delegate it or defer it. It means that you will do it next day, that evening, next week, but it's your decision what you are doing with everything you have. And of course, you could be helped by automatic filters, by reminders, and so on. So it depends on the tool that you are using. It will be more or less automatic, but basically, every time you are going to review your inbox, and it should be 2 or 3 times per week, just review it all. 2 minutes, just do it. More than 2 minutes, okay? Just create a task, move it to your project plan, or delete it, but take an action. Focused. While we are working, we would differentiate between two types of tasks, deep ones and shallow ones. So it depends on your level of energy. You will be able to do one or the other. So for example, deep work could be programming or working in a specific task. And shallow work could be to review notification, review your email. So depending on your energy level, you should be able to focus on do something that it's less stressful for you. So depending on your behavior or your different daily work, you should decide, okay, I'm full of energy right now, I have time, let's go for this hard task. Okay, I'm a low energy right now, I don't have time, I have just 15 minutes until next meeting, then try to do shallow work. This is a very good book called Deep Work from Cal Newport that I really recommend you to read it. And of course, I have said before, the idea is to focus on us, not on the teams. That of course there are a lot of improvements that you can do, but it starts with you. So basically, you should adopt a self-service and self-learning mentality. So every time you are facing a problem, you should assume that it's already answered. So it's better to try to search for that problem instead of tapping the virtual shoulder of someone. If you discover how to do something, and this was not already documented, just documented it. And as a last option, really on your team support. It does not mean that you need to work always alone. It does mean that you will work together if it is needed, not by default. There are some techniques that we can use to help us focus. One well-known is the Pomodoro Technique. Basically, how it works. You will work 25 minutes, and then you will have a short break of 5 minutes. And each 4 Pomodoros, you will have a 20 minutes break. The idea is at the beginning of your workday, you will have the full list of tasks that you are going to do, then decide how many Pomodoros you will need it. It will help you to estimate better, and then you will go one by one. It has some benefits that, for example, if you are in a kind of job, work that you are not able to concentrate because everyone or you have a lot of notifications, with this method, you will be able that at least to concentrate 25 minutes. And as average, if people need to reach you, they will need to wait just half, 12 minutes as average. But it has some drawbacks that it will stop your workflow. You will not have intense deep work because 25 minutes is not enough. And it will force you to continue even if you are exhausted. It means that, okay, I need a rest, but there are 15 minutes left on the timer, so I need to rely on the method and continue, which is more or less a bad idea. So there is an alternative, which is the rest time countdown technique, that in the end is basically the same, but it's giving you the control. So basically, you should decide first how long are you going to work, for example, for hours, and what is the total break time that you want, for example, 30 minutes. So every time you need to take a break, just click on the counter and start counting down. When you are able to go back to work, just pause it and continue. So which are the benefits? That you will have higher intensity of the work. You will not be stopped but your flow, and you will also have conscious control over your breaks. The only drawbacks is that your team members will need to wait longer until they could reach you, but it should not be a problem because we are working in remote environments that should be worked remotely. So it means that they should know, those teammates, that whenever you finish, you will see those notifications and go back to them. How good is enough? Okay, there's a problem when we are working alone that you don't know when to stop. So basically, we should know that at first it's quite easy to add more value because you are from draft. Everything that you do, it's always increasing the value. But there is a moment where you will need to invest a lot of time under the value that you are adding. It's quite low. So you should identify and think, okay, what I'm doing is important. It's really, really important. Does it worth it? This 2 or 3 hours additional to make it better? And then based on that, decide what is needed for that task. And of course, the 80-20 rule, the Pareto distribution, that it says that the 20% of your effort will provide the 80% of your results. Okay, so which are the pillars for this remote work? First one, you should document everything. Just a single source of truth where all processes, company goals, values, know-how, there should not be no written rules, and you should make all in charge and foster collaboration. So it means that every person will help to improve that single source of truth. So we all will be able to work individually. And of course, we could have meetings with teams and so on, but only when needed. And maybe it's easier to have 15 minutes per day just to talk and to chatting things that are related to work than interrupt each other to just to keep in touch. Communication. Okay, communication by text could be difficult at first because of cultural language difference, because of time zones, because different bank holidays, lack of non-verbals. But we should invest on it. And it's quite fundamental to distinguish between async and sync communication. There is a big issue that people is transforming Slack, WhatsApp to synchronous communication, what is not. So it's better to write a little more sentences and then assume that you will get feedback in 5, 10, 30 minutes and not in this exactly moment. So it's better to invest 5 minutes more when you are communicating with other, for example, for emails. You will see some people that says that when you are working on your email, you should try to answer as soon as possible, as fast as possible. For me, it's not that way. I think it's better to work in a context-less communication. It means that if I spend 5 minutes more on the email that I am writing down, just don't know, for example, attaching the report instead of assuming that they will know where it is, even if it is always in the same place, or clearly identifying what they need to do person by person, all those kind of things will help you to reduce the number of loops emails that you will get every day. Probably you are chatting by email right now. It's something, it completely depends on you. You have spend 5 minutes more, and just that communication will help all to reduce the number of emails that they receive per day. Meetings. I like the sentence that I survived to another meeting that should have been an email. Okay. You should have always an agenda. You should make it optional. It means that as people will be able to see the agenda on different items, they are able to do not attend or maybe send their thoughts by email. So it's enough. So that way we are removing and having less meetings per week. Everything that has been decided, discussed, decision and actions on that meeting should be sent to all the people that are in the same meeting. And also you have the opportunity to transform meetings. And you are working remotely and you don't need to stay in the same place. You could, for example, transform the daily meetings to a chat channel. So for example, there's a link where, and we followed it. It's great. And what we do, we talk about what we did yesterday and what we are going to do today. And we keep the meetings with those media meetings, but we only focused on the blockers because the other parts we have already told them. And of course, if someone just need to reach somebody, they could write it down into that channel. So they just need to keep in touch each other without needed to wait. For example, you all know that daily meetings with maybe 5 to 10 people in the same team, it takes long, very long. Okay, when you work hard. When you are done, be done. Basically, you should need to have a ritual to finalize your daily work, your daily routine. Previously, when you worked from your office, you just turn off your laptop, then you go to by bus or by train to your house, and in some way, your body, your brain know that you were finalizing you were ending your workday. But what happens when you are in the same space? You are at home. Then you need to create a ritual. That way, you are telling yourself that you have ended for today. So basically, there is a Sarcastic effect that basically says that all incomplete tasks will dominate your attention. So they will not be forgotten. It's good, but at first, but of course, that capacity that the brain has to remember you, remind you, sorry, all those tasks every time, it could be quite stressful. So basically, at the end of your day, one thing you can do is to visit or to revisit all the things that are left and decide to schedule it for next days. That way, your brain will know, okay, I can't forget about it. And if you need to extend your workday, do it. But after you have decided to stop, stop. Please don't continue 3 hours later trying to review that email and so on. And you should left time for relax. Idleness is absolutely necessary in order to get any work done. Why? Because your conscious it's more able to manage huge amount of data to process. So even you, your conscious mind, it's perfect for solving problems, mathematical ones or specific ones. It's not good to manage a long amount of data. So this is why you should left your brain to relax, to recharge. And of course, as we have said, that you only have 4 hours of deep work per day. So usually that downtime will not replace a high value job. So basically, it's better to just to rest and relax. And the last part, like we should find a balance. So basically, more or less, we work around 4 hours, we sleep around 4 hours, and there's another 4 hours, 80 hours. But there are another 80 hours that we need to decide what we are going to do with it. So basically, you should decide what to do with your personal life because time is limited. And also, increasing time on any specific pillar will impact the others. So it's quite difficult to find a balance, and maybe there's no balance that you should try to find between body, social, spirit, mind. You should find your own. And once you have decided it, follow your own rules and don't allow others to interact with their own ones. And plan your personal time. So basically, along our work routine, we have different meetings, we have tasks, we have everything, but something that we don't do is to plan also our personal life. So the main issue is that we are forgetting about those things that make us happy, that make us live as humans. So a good idea is to start your day with something meaningful for you. For example, I decided to practice yoga 30 minutes and then to read a book from 7 to 8 o'clock. So when I start my journey, I have already invested on me. So it helped me to deal with anything around the day because what I have achieved before helped me to survive that day. So as a summary, we should set up our optional workspace. We need to invest wisely our limited willpower. We need to deal a limit distractions. We should focus. We should have a plan, even if it needs to be changed. We should embrace asynchronous work. We need to shut down the next day, and we need to set boundaries between our professional and personal life. Any questions? Okay, we have the first question. Thank you. In case you use 4 hours as the correct daily average for having focus time, do you take this factor in consideration when you do planning estimation? Yes. Basically, you need to face that. There's a limited time per day, and if you try to reach more than you are able to, it will be quite stressful. So basically, you should first try to know how you work, because 4 hours per day is quite high on the work. So maybe you should start with 3 or with 2, and also it depends of if you are concentrate or not. I mean, for example, I discovered that from 7 to 8, I'm able to read a lot of pages, and because no one is disturbing me. So for me, that's that hour, even it's not work. For me, it's just 1 hour that I've been using for deep working. But for me, it's quite important, and I need it. So basically, you should try to book yourself a space on your calendar, and you can also let your teammates know about it, that from 10 to 1 o'clock, please do not add me to any meetings, because for me, it's the time where I use it to concentrate and focus on this main task. And for example, as I'm a morning guy, so after on the evening, I'm not quite good. So what I do is to use the evening to manage emails, notifications, provide also help to my team members, but to reserve for me to book for me the mornings to create value. Okay, what about having family around you? That's a very good point. I have said before, family will try to reach you. It's normal. You are in real life. So basically, you need to establish a flag, something that let them know that you are right now in deep work and where you are not. So it could be closing the door, it could be wearing your headphones, it could be just an object on the table. So every time that object is on the table, they should know that they cannot disturb you only if there's something critical. But of course, you cannot use it every time, because if they see that, yes, that person is always closing the door. So if I need something, I will enter into the room. So you should be you should balance both, and let them know. I think it's people will understand that even to the children, that you need to concentrate. So maybe with children it's quite harder, but for example, an object, it could be just a game. Like okay, so the object is here, you cannot tell me anything, but after a few minutes, I will remove it and I will go with you. We could play a little bit or whatever. Okay, we have gone from 100% office to 100% remote due to the COVID. I think there is a sweet spot somewhere in the middle. Do you agree? Do you think we really move? Okay. So do you think we really will move to 100% remote in the future? Okay, it will be a balance. For example, what I think is the best approach, because I still believe in human interactions. So I think that we should, for me, the perfect office is the one where we can go there maybe once per week, maybe once it's 2 weeks, and focused on human interactions. For example, do there all the sprint planning or the sprint reviews, even the Kaizen, that all the part to improve yourself, but the rest of the week you could work from home. So I'm talking about technical companies, of course. Doctors need to be at office, but this kind of projects or companies should be able to maybe they don't embrace 100% remote, but they should do it. I mean, even if we decide to rent an office again, we should keep remote meetings because there will be other people that should be able to join to those meetings. Do you have any recommendation for people who has to take care about kids while working remotely? Yes. In my case, I don't have kids, so it's quite difficult for me to help anyone. It was not, I think, it will not be fair. Like I could provide you some recommendations, but I have not tested it myself. But I think that children are more intelligent than we think sometimes, and I think that these 2 months or these 3 months, because of the COVID, we cannot use it as example because it was quite stressful for all of us. So it does not mean that something that didn't work 6 months ago will not work in the future. So I recommend just to try to explain to your children what you are doing, that it's important, and of course find time for them. So, for example, sometimes people that are having issues with their child, the main problem is that they don't have free time for them. So the child does not know that, okay, at 5 I will be able to stay with my mother, with my father, because maybe my mother and my father will stay all the journey working. So this is why probably they are disturbing every time. But if they know that you will be able to play with them at 5, probably, and it's something that you are always following, more or less, probably it will be easier to let them understand that you are doing important stuff. Do you have any tips for non-morning people to get motivated for work in the morning? Yes. Start doing something that is meaningful for you. It could be anything, even playing games or reading a book, going for a walk. But start your journey for something that is meaningful for you. Okay, what do you do with big tasks that will take more than 4 hours to finish? Okay, break them. Basically, you need to break them. It's not. You need to take a rest. So I recommend you to follow even inside those 4 hours, for example, you need to take a rest. So I recommend you to use the countdown timer because it's absolutely better than the Pomodoro one. And then you will be able to measure yourself and know when you need to relax, when not, and so on. Yes. So I think it's time now to close the session. Thank you all for attending, and please reach me anytime you need. You have I will share the presentation later. You will have there my Twitter account, and also I will be here all this Congress. So thank you very much. Bye.